Well, hello there, and welcome to yet another episode of, I almost said Ask Dr. Bitcoin. This is Merge Roundtable. I've actually been recording my show this week, so Ask Dr. Bitcoin is trying to come out, roll off my tongue. But anyway, we're going to talk about stuff that's not Bitcoin, well, at least not all of it. Anyway, we're going to talk today about a little bit about the ETF, some stablecoin stuff, where there's some stuff about prop trading that the SEC is interested in regulating in a different way. We're also going to talk about Iran and its usage of which financial system it uses to evade sanctions. That was an interesting story from the week. Jerome Powell said some stuff. We're going to talk about Johnson & Johnson. What's that about? I don't know. You're going to have to stick around and stay tuned after the little intro. But I'm joined today here with Frank Kushner and Jim Durbin, and we are going to go down that list. Probably talk about some AI stuff as well, because we always do. Bet you Taylor Swift will come up in conversation.
Oh, no.
I don't know why. I just got a feeling. Anyway, this show and most of the network is brought to you by Harper Belmont. It's our studio. You should start a podcast. You should learn about it at harperbelmont.com. Go check it out. Stick with us after this intro song, and we'll be back with some show. I don't know if you noticed the intro was a little bit different this week, and we're kind of upgrading and A/B testing our approach to kicking off the live stream.
It's amazing how just when you have all of this different equipment and you just upgrade just a little more of it, it totally changes the dynamic of the things that need to be done and the processes, right?
Yeah, I mean, like the whole no 10-minute, 15-minute countdown led to no insane, like last-minute
comments.
Bombs. Yeah, I had nothing to lead in with that was disorienting me.
Yeah, that was my first note. My first note is we're getting the timer back up there because I like the pressure it gives.
At least an internal.
You said you did A/B testing. Have you thought about maybe doing, I don't know, ABC testing or maybe ABCD testing?
Okay, stop.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if we can handle all that. Jacob did the. We're also musically retheming the network, and Jacob he's
awesome.
Building out little musical elements. I don't know how much of that went out on the air, but
what is he finger something on YouTube?
Finger thing.
You can actually purchase Mark's son's music. I have. I'm his #1 fan. Is that the?
Yeah. Well, he dropped a CD this week.
He dropped a CD.
Dropped a CD, not like literally on the floor. He actually put out a CD that can be purchased for $5, like an EP or something.
What year is this?
What do you do with it?
That's the thing. So
you stand outside a financial planner's office and you try to, hey man, you want my track? You want my track?
Frank, don't pretend like you didn't just trade in a car with a CD player.
Funny story is I realized that I left the CDs in the changer, and so when I sent him a message to please hold on to those, he didn't know how to remove them.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Isn't that great?
The
how possibly, like, what could you do?
Well, I keep CDs in the car. I did back when I had one that had a CD changer, because what happens if you're out of network range?
Alanis?
Oh wait,
is it Alanis?
Now there's actually like.
What do you think? Little AC/DC? What do you think he listens to? What CDs would he have? Like Electric Light Orchestra? Well, I mean,
I'm not going to say I don't know who they are, so I'll just.
Yes, the bunny.
So,
the issue was that
Tango.
Jacob was dropping this CD as EP as a CD just because it was kind of retro to him and his alpha friends, not Zoomers, and so he got his like demo copy or whatever, like to make sure that the print came off right and the played properly. And he goes, "Dad, we don't have a CD. I don't have a CD player." So we went to Micro Center to try to buy one. They don't even carry them anymore.
$25 at Amazon, USB convertible.
Right, and we had to
crazy.
hunt down a Walmart that had like a '90s looking eggshell CD player thing.
It's too bad Mark's not here. The other Mark, the young
Mark
one.
Shutt.
Yeah,
he
because
might
it's,
remember what a.
Well, I just think it wasn't that long ago. 15 years ago,
Yeah.
I bought a replicator. And I was like,
See-
ooh, it's a tower that you could take 5 CDs and you burn your CDs. Because I was selling training on DVDs in a case that would go out. And I felt so cool because it was, and you had to go buy them, and half the CDs were bad if you bought them from the wrong place, and
Right.
they'd be rejected.
I
You
want
buy
a copy
100
of
for like
Jim's
15
mixtape.
cents, and then 50 of them wouldn't work.
So I'm one of those guys that does PBS, and of course, I'm going to donate the money anyway, but I feel better about myself when I get something for it. So
tote
of
bag.
course, I did the Rick Steves Europe trip kit, which came with a bunch of CDs, and then I realized I don't have a CD player.
I actually don't know if my truck has a CD player. I don't think it does, but it very easily could.
Yeah, no, our like we got a 2019 Hyundai doesn't have a CD player in it. My 95 truck is too old to have a CD player in it. Has a tape deck.
Wow.
Okay, so now that we've dated ourselves, what do we have? What else do we have?
Well, real quick, have you ever thought about how in cars are super bumpy, but the CDs rarely skipped unless it was a crazy bump. You had the little Walkman riding the bus, and
Oh, yeah.
even like shifting in your seat, that thing skipped 20 times. That's why cassette tapes, Jacob, that's what you got to do. Even though I think maybe to Jacob, cassette tapes might be a little chewy or a little like millennial, like vinyl, like
Yeah, I don't think they'll
I
go
think
to cassette
Zoomers
tapes.
like
He buys
cassette
records.
tapes a lot. So.
He bought records.
Yeah, I was
That's
trying to
all right.
tell him, why don't we just print a vinyl? And he's for some reason that wasn't cool enough. or
I got a
something.
friend
I
who
will
sells an
buy
8-track.
all of
He's
the above.
25. He's got an 8-track in his desk. Like you open it up and there's an 8-track.
So this has been an ad for Jacob's CD.
Finger thing.
Brought to you
Live
by
on iTunes.
Finger thing. I'll put up a graphic next time.
Yeah,
Support
yeah.
young artists.
Yeah.
Just go to his Twitter. Go to my Twitter account or his Twitter account. The
Just
CD's
remember,
up
Mark
there.
has all the money. He doesn't own it. That's the whole point of child labor. Have
Right.
kids, you don't have to pay them.
Exactly. Anyway,
But should you do that? Should you pay your children to be in a marketing material or anything like that? Like if you're actually like an insurance company and you're trying to market something and you do happen to pay them, you would then be eligible to contribute to a retirement plan for those said children at that young age.
I'm a little torn about that. Is it true that you can put your kids on your credit card, like 9 as an authorized user, and now they have a history that's longer?
I have
And is that a
no
bad idea?
No, I would imagine
Because then
that
they have great credit. They're 18, and all of a sudden they have access to $50,000, which
I
they blow
can't
through. So it's
imagine.
kind
I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to that, but I can tell you that if you're under 18 years old, why would you ever, honor
Well, you're
contract
building-
with
No, it's
somebody like that?
13
building
years
that
old.
contract.
You can get on a credit card as an authorized user and build your credit.
like you don't ever give it
Wow.
to them, and
Wow.
you never tell
Yeah.
them.
Or I
just
have
a
no idea
surprise.
if your credit starts then, but at least I guess
Well,
you can
it'll
use
show
it.
up. Yeah, absolutely, it'll show up. Same way that if they steal your credit and decide to use it to get
Oh, that's
light
right.
and gas, I
Right.
mean, you can put a baby. You can just Social Security. You put a baby on it, and
Let's go.
they don't care if they didn't pay their gas that month. I mean, they don't know. They probably do
Yeah,
care. They just don't know.
That happened to my wife as a child. Some cousin stole her ID or something like that and went nuts with it. But yeah.
Family.
Yeah, family. Gotta love it.
McLovin.
So the ETF news was kind of it's the gift that keeps on giving and probably will for quite a while story wise. The thing that there wasn't a ton of notable stories on the feed, but just the one like update that I saw was from like a Twitter anon, like a guy in crypto Twitter, but he says he has a day job at a day job company. They had the annual 401k advisor presentation with Invesco, and they said that at Invesco the Bitcoin ETF is not yet available for the funds that their company uses, but they expect to have it available within 12 to 18 months to be able to offer the Bitcoin ETF.
Is that a long time?
The takeaway, this is what I want to bring up for discussion and ask you some questions about it, because to me that seems like a long time. Is that normal? The takeaway for him is like a lot of these retirement companies are not gonna, they're not moving on a dime. So that $1 trillion Bitcoin or whatever it's going to be is not going to be tomorrow. It might be, over the course of a couple of years or something like that is what it's sounding like. Mm-hmm. Is this normal? Like that it would take that long for it to be like a approved product within their investment portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think about this from a lot of different directions. First and foremost, there's a lot of money in these retirement plans and their defined benefit plans or their 401k plans. These plans tend to be something that you want to grow consistently over a longer period of time. These are basically investment accounts, almost health and welfare plans, right? Many of them are ERISA plans. But in a nutshell, these are the ones that you typically don't want to take. You want to take sufficient risk, but not necessarily single security risk in most of these types of plans. And the reason being is there's 7 more or less black swan events every year. You lose some percentage of that money that was invested in an individual company, then that's going to hurt. But if you have it in diversified securities, mutual funds, ETFs, so on and so forth, it tends to be better. Now, if you take a look at the amount of people, the amount of different 401k assets and providers, and since they all tend to have proprietary funds or stuff, like who got into this first? Fidelity, once again, in the retirement markets for their crypto 401k. They announced it right during the crypto winter that they were going to do it. But they have, they're a private company. They're able to make pivots that other people can't. As you have larger scale in a public company, you're going to have more obstacles. Is it prudent? Is that security prudent for a 401k plan? Yet, right? We don't know. Take a look at how many 401k plans have gold funds in them standard.
Right.
Right. Not that gold isn't a viable object. It's just that, over time, it doesn't really move a whole lot. And when it does, it moves wildly. And then people are like, why don't we have a gold fund? And then 20 years goes by and it's like, nothing
happens again.
So we'll see. Is that could be the same thing that happens with crypto now that a lot of the volatility is starting to shake out of it based on equilibrium.
Right.
Is it then going to is it worth having more than one ETF that does it? We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
So that's probably why they're saying a year. Let's see who shakes out and who's to put on our platform.
Somebody said that they're not putting 1% of their funds as Bitcoin. I forget who was it, Gray Rob? I saw a note on that, and they said they are officially 1% of their asset class is now Bitcoin.
Well, I mean,
which makes sense. I mean, if you're going to do it,
Yeah.
that's what we suggest people do. Take your free money and
Right, yeah.
throw it in there for the win, but don't make it
like it's the risk on part of your portfolio, so don't make it 99%. Like a number like 1% probably makes more sense for most people, or some number that's in that range.
So I have negative $20,000 of Bitcoin.
Not financial advice, but it's the idea being a smaller number, not like the majority of your asset, right, or majority of your portfolio.
I think that the thing to focus on here is that, again, you're seeing more legitimization, and we'll see, again, we don't know what the size of it's going to be. We don't know what the scale. We don't know how the use cases are going to continue to use it, which I think is really going to drive the utility of it, which is going to get to valuation at some point. But the fact that it's still there, and that people are talking about it and moving forward, I think that's the key.
I know the average, although a lot of people do own crypto, I think a lot of them in bad wallets too. Like I forget how many people in the U.S. own it
wallets,
now.
yeah.
Like bought some Doge or something on Robinhood and call themselves crypto owners. But if you look at it now, I'm not seeing the rush into it. Certainly not the altcoins and others, but all the old school Bitcoin people are freaking out. Think about it, it's almost $48,000. If you bought it at 15, you'd have tripled your money. That's a crazy thing to think that was even still. That's just recent. That's not just holding for someone who's been around for a while with it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty high number, actually.
I mean, we're almost at the yearly all-time high again. Probably will be, over the weekend if the trend continues, or maybe it stalls out.
Shoot up all the way to 6. What was it? 69.
Well, not all-time high, but yearly all-time.
Isn't that
high.
what it got to? 69, 420, and then
Somewhere in there, yeah. It's pretty close if it wasn't exactly.
So speaking of high watermarks, I just feel obligated to tell this story briefly. So I have a new employee and a business partner up in New York that were talking to each other, and they were doing exactly what finance people do. In their case, they're not regulated entities, and so they were taking advantage of the dislocation of GBTC and what was going to happen if the ETF happened. And so they were hedging their portfolios, and one of my buddies got the high print for that day, which is fun because you just know it's like, I top ticked it, I sold it at the high.
You take a picture holding it up like a tuna.
Yeah. So it's always good when you get that validation, you take that screenshot and send it to your buddies. It was me, I did it, I did that. So that was fun. That was good.
So The opposite of that is one of my friends. He was going kind of heads down on some, like he was getting certified and some financial stuff. So he decided to liquidate all of his Ethereum so he wouldn't be, paying attention to the charts and trying to trade it while he's supposed to be studying for the test. At the absolute local bottom at 2,200, and he looked back at it today. It's like almost 2,500 now. And so he was the bottom tick.
So you want to call that opportunity cost? That is the opportunity cost of knowing that you need to focus on something important. That was his tuition.
I saw a guy on Twitter who was talking about the fact that he put $5,000 from Coinbase into his bank. Turns out he was Canadian. This is TD Ameritrade. And they basically froze his stuff and said, we need to make sure we know where this is coming from. So they wanted not only information about where the money came from, but also
Where the Bitcoin,
your wallet, your address, everything that you own. And when he went in, like they wouldn't do it over the phone. He's like, what are you talking about? He ends up going in, and they're basically like, we don't think you should be buying Bitcoin with your TD Ameritrade credit cards or bank accounts. So we're going to freeze this money. Something that you've seen a number of times. A lot of people don't grasp it. And I keep looking at that. The bank's just literally shutting things down. As we were talking about a month ago, 2 months ago, about JP Morgan Chase, what are you going to do with Stripe?
So is this recent?
This was new to this guy.
Okay.
He didn't know that it had been happening for a long time. And I wonder how much of that begins to
that's a
kind of
dicey
filter
move
up.
by TD, given the Supreme Court decision that happened in Canada.
What was the...
In Canada, they reversed Trudeau's, because Trudeau had TD Ameritrade and a bunch of other banks seize people's money for donating to the Hong Kong Coddle, the Ottawa trucker movement.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And the Supreme Court of Canada, whatever high court that, I don't know if it's called Supreme Court, but it was some high court, overturned Trudeau's decision and returned a bunch of money 2 years later after all that happened. And so to hear TD Ameritrade kind of continuing that policy seems like legally problematic waters for them.
I mean,
But I'm not a Canadian.
To clarify, that would not be TD Ameritrade. I
TD Bank.
I
TD Bank.
suspect it would be TD Bank because TD Ameritrade was bought
Totally
by
different
Schwab.
thing. Yeah,
totally
TD
different company. Yeah.
Yeah, I meant TD Bank.
Yeah. But TD is like, they're
And now I can't stop thinking of Letterkenny.
right.
I mean, should we go to the ATM or something?
We've been talking about like Tether and stable coins, this kind of recurring topic. Do you have that graph handy that is on the stable coin item?
Yeah, give me a sec.
Okay. So, I mean, we can look at it here on this screen. But essentially the story is that Tether is disrupting other forms of payments not Tether specifically, stablecoins with Tether leading the charge, is disrupting other forms of payment pretty rapidly. This is a log chart, of course, but what it has surpassed is PayPal and global remittance volume levels.
Wow.
Both of those things. See, those are the two lines there. The yellow one is global remittance levels.
Now that's fascinating because I
PayPal
remember
is the
sitting
blue
down with one of those big payment processors, and one of the things that they're launching is basically blockchain-focused remittances to countries that they have issues with.
Right.
Like that's going to be I think it's MoneyGram even. Is it
Yeah, MoneyGram. MoneyGram's been talking about it for a while.
So
like they've been hiring. They are absolutely going to have a blockchain solution that works with something like this for remittances.
So what's interesting here is
worldwide, not here, but
you see that 10,000 level right there where the line's approaching.
right.
That 10,000 level is Visa.
That's Visa. I mean, it makes sense. Why would you trust companies?
You know who I'm really curious why they haven't. Maybe there's some regulations. There's got to be some reason that they don't do it. But my big question has to do with, all these different companies and countries worldwide, right? Being able to use PayPal, or now they're using some kind of stable coin using their wallet, being able to transfer money back and forth for global currencies, right? So like all of the big network providers for your cell phone, right? Like if you're traveling, why wouldn't you just transact money using stable coins from country to country on your cell phone using a stable coin account because I mean
Because they'll
everybody
take your
that
cell
I
phone at
know,
the border. They'll scan the results.
Probably,
And they'll
but there you go. There you go. There's the answer. There's the easy answer.
Don't be a sex
There's
worker
the
and fly
gateway.
into the U.S.
There's the
you will
gateway.
be banned if you have an OnlyFans sex worker. They won't let you in.
But it's just math, right? You don't have to keep it on your phone, and if you do,
I think that's what people don't. You know that. I know that.
Right.
Who's going to take their? I mean, you take your seed phrase.
See,
with
for
you.
all of you that were thinking just like me, do not bring your phone. Buy a phone. Over.
I mean, I can talk about it now. I didn't want to talk.
No, my point was that like if you actually like the phone company themselves, if they were the ones to handle the gateway.
Well, that's what Twitter's talking about doing. But
Oh, really? Okay.
what were you?
I was gonna say, well, I can talk about it now, but I wouldn't have brought it up maybe 2 years ago. But I went to prison with my seed phrase.
It just like tucked up your nose, up your butt. What's the
So-
story here, man?
Well,
if it's up the butt, I don't want to know.
It was not up the
It's
butt.
A family show.
But you're allowed.
Could it have been, though?
You're allowed certain items. It could have been. I mean, they call it the prison pocket. It's not that for nothing. But there. I
Just
won't.
get really fat and tuck it under one of the folds, right?
Why am I here?
They allow you to bring certain,
Yeah.
toiletry
Yeah.
items and whatnot in there with you, and it's just a piece of paper with 12 words on it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, think about all the places you can realistically hide 12 words on pieces of paper.
Why didn't you make it into a poem of some kind? Memorize it.
I could have, but it was a throwaway wallet. It wasn't all of my net worth. I wanted just to have.
That's what people are going to have to start memorizing Iliad style.
One of my friends from
seed
Free
phrases.
Rostow calls it her bad poem.
Her bad poem.
Yeah, because it's a random set of words. You can't really. Nothing rhymes. Doesn't scan.
Starlight, Kitten Mitten. Doubt, avarice, loyalty. Oh, yeah. It's really easy to remember.
We're
Doubt,
recording
avarice.
this, right?
Yeah.
Just gonna
That's
check
not my
and see if
seed.
that's a
That's not my
seed.
seed.
Just check.
Besides, I'd give it to you in the wrong order. I actually go into my seed test. I'll tell you what I do. I add a new word, and I'm the only one who knows which word is not the right word.
It blows me away that there's an app out there called, I think it's Any 3 Words. Have you guys heard of that thing?
Mm-mm.
So it's basically, I heard about it during the pandemic, and it was like basically in Europe for sure, definitely I think in London or England in that area, it's like you can, where you are right now, you look at it, it gives you 3 words. You give those 3 words to the authorities, and it tracks you anywhere on the earth with those 3 words. So like, just think about the overkill on having.
That sounds like
20
a Black
words
Mirror
or whatever.
episode. That's
Yeah,
a
it kinda
real
does.
thing. How is that even a
How does that work?
3 random word generator?
It generate those words are specific to the data point from like anyone. So if anyone types in those 3 words, that would be the latitude, longitude for those 3 words.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh, it's just a basic
It's a lat
cipher.
long- Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but just think about like the complexity of how long like
That's
the
not-
latitude and longitude versus like
Yeah.
that's 3 words.
I'm going to meet you over in the
versus-
corner of Cat and Bird.
Cat and bird. Cat, bird, and gerbil. It's a pet shop. All right. So the other kind of, I mean, we're on a kind of finance and regulation tear. Can you explain this prop trading thing? I mean, I'll read the story here for everybody else. It was. I read like a legal analysis from Gabriel Shapiro, who's a crypto legal guy. They were like listening to the guidance meeting live, and so a lot of it was I absorbed it out of order. I'm assuming you know more about it. I don't even really know what prop trading is because I'm not a TradFi guy. I mean, I got a sense of what it is, but I'm not trained in that. But I do know what the crypto people were paying attention to it for, because they were talking about how it could apply to decentralized finance.
Mm-hmm.
And people that provide, they were afraid that people, or they were talking about people that provide liquidity for tokens on DeFi platforms would be subject to prop trading registration in that context. And it was a lot of back and forth and like, is this even possible with the technology, blah, blah, blah. And then it got to the end of it, and it was basically Gensler goes, well, it only really applies to people that are putting in more than $50 million worth of liquidity. So it's a very limited number of people, and I guess that makes the problem more solvable. But I guess, could we just like define what prop trading is first of all, and then like go from there maybe?
All right, so let's start off by what this is trying to do is to clarify definitions from things that were old tech to new tech. It's really that simple, and I think that there's very little difference between a dealer and from their definition. The original definition of dealer was someone who did it as a course of business, right? So if you wanted to buy, and this is really more in the fixed income market now than in the equity markets, and we've seen that because of the change from decimalization. This is such a nuanced, complicated topic, but I'm going to try to dumb it down this way. In the past, if you were investing in a security or in securities for yourself and you were buying it for yourself, acting as a principal, I want to keep that for my portfolio and I want to buy IBM at $100, at $98 a share. And Jim, with nobody in the middle, Jim, who's on the same platform or whatever, wants to buy it at, and he wants it at 100. There's a $2 gap. Well, until somebody steps in the middle to make you both miserable, you may never get to that price.
Right.
And in the past, that was when it was called the curb. That was when you remember the guys running around on the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had all those hand signals. That was
What does that mean?
one that depends on options contracts or stocks, right? So they
I
had
was thinking
different
of coffee
figures
and
now.
2 beers later on. Let's talk to the
one of the
redhead on the
funniest
clock now.
things ever. What they literally unless you have a badge, unless you know it on the street, they're not going to really take an order from you. But one of the fun things to do was when you had people that would come in pre 9/11. Of course, it was a lot easier to get people out onto the actual exchange. And so when I worked at Fidelity, we would call our floor trader and say, his name was Tony Cigar. He was awesome. We'd call, and Tony would bring a guest or guests, the family, onto the floor, and the first thing he would say is like, do not raise your hands, do not move your hands, you don't want to be buying any stocks. And so the family would go down there.
If they do that, it's done.
And so, that every one of those floor traders knows what's going on.
So they're trying to go.
And so somebody would say, oh my God, and they look and they point, is like, and then some trader on the floor is like, sold! And then everyone starts saying, sold, sold, sold! And so then you've got these people on the floor going, what did I just do? You know what you just bought? Oh, it was so much fun. But that speaks to the difference. If you're buying it for your own account, it was really never an issue. But in this case, there's now some definitions in order of business that they're trying to address, because before you needed to know a guy. In fixed income, you saw a margin call, you've seen boiler room, you've seen all these things where someone places a call and it goes to some desk, and then the guy at Morgan Stanley says, I don't like that price. Give me a better price and call me back. Click, right? Hit the turret, right? That was how business was done. We don't do that anymore. You could trade from ThinkPipes, you could trade from anything on your phone now. It's not really the need as much for a dealer.
Right.
But what do we know about the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government? They need to protect their currency. And so what they're worried about with this $31 trillion deficit and this debt that we have, this massive debt, is that who can run on a stock or security faster than anybody? Hedge funds, right? So I think, and I don't know specifically how this addresses things, hedge funds are really irritated about it because if they are, which we know they are doing business, but they're doing business with their own money, that's the problem. The big problem is a hedge fund also likes to buy stock, right? And they like to get it pre-IPO. They want to be the IPO. They want the allocations to IPOs. If you're a dealer, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. So they're pissed off about it with that too. So there's parts of the definition that they're trying to address, but those parts of the definition they're trying to address are causing other problems.
Yeah.
It's up to 34.
Okay, great.
It's not a big deal. Just 3 trillion. Just a minor
34
small.
Well, so
3 trillion.
This is one of the other stories this week. We touched it on Money in the Bank. It was just towards the end we mentioned it. Jerome Powell had some strong words in an interview this week saying that the national debt, the deficit and debt are not sustainable. They're growing faster than GDP.
They never were.
Which has been the case for a minute, but it's not usual. It's unusual to hear someone in his position kind of
Considering that 20 years ago, bringing that up when we were just at 7 trillion.
yeah.
What happened when the last time a person in his position said that there was a bubble.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
What do you think, 2008 or 2001?
Yeah, lower. Yeah. So the issue here is that I think we all know that, like, as a person, and this goes to the problem of bigger businesses and being able to turn the ship, right? Like, you individually, Jim, realize that you have no more money, you stop spending money, or you start borrowing money, but you can only borrow money so long until you run out of money, and then the credit card companies all know.
But I'm not the Federal Reserve.
But that's one person, right? We have a system right now where even the government knows we're spending too much money, but are they going to take it from you? They going to take it from you?
Yeah.
Are they going to take it from me? They're not taking it from me.
80,000
I don't mind if they take it
IRS.
from you. Right? This is the same issue that we have in estate planning, where you take a look at different portfolio assets during estate planning, and you're trying to figure out valuations, right? So if you individually own one share of IBM stock and it's worth $100, it's worth $100. But if you have a family limited partnership that has 6 different people that own that same 100 shares or $100 stock, is it really worth $100, or is there a discount because you got to get them all to agree?
Right.
So how are we going to get them all to agree when we've got a $34 trillion deficit?
We're just going to
right?
confiscate all the money of everybody who makes more than $100 million a year.
I bet.
And then next year, I'm not sure what we're going to do, but that'll almost cover the debt this year.
I bet.
Deficit this year.
I bet that if we address I bet if the government addresses its own healthcare issue with regarding
It's such a big part, 21%.
drugs,
It's a huge part of the GDP.
that could literally fix
For no
a lot
reason.
of this issue right
That
now.
is the weirdest thing, that we paid 21% versus 3%. And it's just kind of that's never fixed. Mm-hmm. We'll be fine. What could go wrong? What is it? Keynes has been replaced by MMA. Is that what it's called?
MMT.
MMT.
Maybe it's the same. I don't know which one I want.
Well, Joe Rogan's in charge of one of them, and then I don't know, some shadowy cabal is in charge of the other one. Don't know which is which, but wouldn't that be weird if Joe Rogan was in charge of the Fed?
That would be interesting.
I think
Please
Taylor
stop.
Swift is in charge of the Fed.
You know how? Now that would not surprise me. I sent Mark something earlier. It cracks me up because I guess it was years ago. Someone did a thing. It's like 60 different newspaper reporters all saying the exact same thing for Sinclair Broadcasting, which is a conservative radio outlet. Mm-hmm. And then somebody else did it for MSNBC, CNN, or Fox2. And so you have these news anchors all repeating the exact same story across the country like it's them saying it. And they're just reading off their talking points for the day. And so the funniest one was I saw today.
I put it in the merge channel.
Taylor Swift is not a psyop. Taylor Swift is not a psyop. Taylor Swift is not a psyop. And you're like, oh my God. I didn't think it was until you. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Now that's the talk track?
Yeah.
That's not even getting. Oh, stop doing that.
Yeah, that's that.
Can we stop talking about her in 2 days? Or because everyone's turned on her now.
Has she? I don't
Public
know.
opinion turned against
So,
her
okay.
after something happened.
Taylor Swift is not a sign.
It's not a psyop. Like, what a weird thing to say.
Taylor Swift is not a psyop.
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 Taylor Swift is not a psyop. Taylor Swift is not a psyop.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. Taylor Swift is not a psyop.
Okay.
Taylor Swift is not a psyop.
I can't.
It just has to do with media does stuff. This
Yeah,
makes it look like conspiracy when really
It's just
people like to push their story. It's not even surprising.
That's great.
it's more related.
It's not a psyop.
More related to the Taylor Lorenz death of media clip that we watched a couple of weeks ago than actual psyop operation. But I did want to bring Taylor Swift up in the conversation at some point today, if only for the reason that we launched last week's brief Taylor Swift little diversion as a short clip. It was up for a grand total of about 38 minutes before it had already hit 1,500 views and had 41 likes and nothing but haters in the comments. Nothing but haters in the comments. So, I mean, we're juicing the numbers somehow. This is how we're doing it.
So Jim was saying how public opinion turned. Can I show him
Yeah.
why? This is why.
I thought it was because she didn't talk to Celine
Swift.
Dion.
But Taylor insisted on trying to bring her up to the stage with her. And I think that just didn't sit right with people because it's like, bro, imagine you're up against your friend for an award.
What is wrong with Taylor Swift?
Performative art. I don't know.
What's
I
wrong
love
with
this girl.
Lana also, she dated
Lana-
Sticks from
She's-
Live PD.
She's dating Quavo now.
This is Sohail's partner. Yeah, this is their podcast is great, by the way.
hysterical.
Yeah, I love it.
Well, apparently someone's mad about Celine Dion as well.
Okay,
That she snubbed her.
I don't know who
Celine
that
Dion.
is.
You don't know who Celine Dion is? Oh my God! Don't go to Canada, dude. They will murder you straight up if you don't know that.
they will
No, I
freeze
know
your
who
bank
Tom
account and
McDonald
take
is.
away your.
She's a national treasure.
I know who Tom McDonald is. That's
respect.
Canada's national treasure. You
Bare
know who
naked
that is,
ladies.
Jim?
No, I don't. I don't.
You know the MAGA rapper who's from Canada, that Ben Shapiro. You
Oh,
didn't
that
see that?
guy.
You didn't see
I've
that?
yet to
that
see
guy.
that rap.
Okay, I saw
I'm
that.
a little
I got it.
terrified
I
of it.
got
I
it.
can't
I got it.
imagine what. It feels very jump the sharky.
Well, I mean,
Yes.
maybe all of rap has jumped the shark because it was iTunes' #1 rap track for a week.
No, okay. It was iTunes, the iTunes charts that people buy. Like these are people who don't have.
Oh,
any,
so it's people my age.
yes, These are Daily Wire subscribers who don't have.
I
Apple
actually
Music
had to go buy the
subscriptions.
Apple streaming service because I got so tired of people talking. Someone looks at me at one point. She goes, "Why do you buy music?" I'm like, "Because I always did. Because I had the first iPhone." Turns out you're not supposed to do it. Well, it's dumb as hell. For like $15, you get everything you need. Why am I buying albums?
I heard from someone you stole the U2 album though. You didn't pay.
No,
for
no,
that.
no. The
You
one they stick
stole
it
it.
on your phone. I can
Oh yeah,
delete it.
yeah.
Because I was so mad. How dare you? I don't even know if the album's good. I've never listened to it. I've always spit and tried to delete it every time I see it. It gets rid of all of my music, including personal
Yeah, and
music
it
and
gave you
others.
that one. Yeah. I had that.
It's sticking that wolves or whatever the thing is.
That's so funny.
I'm so mad.
great.
If I got rid of Apple, it'd be because of that.
When I first started dating Amy, she saw my phone, and I created a folder that says things. We'll use the word things. Things I don't want. and you open it up, it's all the stuff that you can't delete off of your phone.
There you go.
Yeah.
So AI, in This Week in AI, there were a couple of interesting stories. One that you sent me, it was also trending on Tech Meme. It was the one about, it was like 404 Magazine or something
Right.
like that they talked. They recently discovered that there was document forgery occurring on the internet and that some people were using AI to help them do it. Of course, the headline was a little bit more sensational than that. It was a look at OnlyFake, the underground website that claims to use neural networks to churn out highly convincing fake IDs for $15, which is about what you have to pay for a regular fake ID too. So it's not.
I think their pitch was that it doesn't take any skill. It's so fast they can, and of course, scale. Like I saw one today. It was 32 different Pennsylvania licenses for a Chinese national that was on the border that they caught up in Indio. And so this stuff has always been there, but how easy does it become? And the scarier thing, which we couldn't verify from that story, was, is that the real ID? Could you fly with that? Because that would be much different than buying cigarettes at 17 or getting into a club or even, identity theft or something like that. There's a big difference between flashing that. And then you think about verification. So LinkedIn and Facebook and all the social clubs,
Right.
and everybody wants your IDs now, whether it's your passport photo or your driver's license. If that's
so-
what it takes to fake it, and I can do that and they can't tell the difference, that means verification won't ever work until it's some other thing. It has to be, how do you scan the...
So
Okay,
I'm curious, before we get any further than that, because this has been something I've been really curious about for a while. Maybe you guys can riddle it to me. So like if I'm going through Clear, if I've Clear and I have TSA, that's one thing. It's a Clear Plus. And then you've got different apps now that have been asking me if they could verify me using Clear or verify me using other like actual...
Because that's their pitch. Yeah, we're going to
things.
verify things for you, and this is...
Right. So, like, I know that we're talking about individually, like, fake IDs, which we used to have to go to Vicon Village and,
I've
buy.
never used a fake ID.
But not that I have ever done that either. I'm just saying that's where one would have done it back in the day. But I'm just, of course that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, how
Who
good
is
are
it gonna
they?
use it?
I think that's the weird thing because it's not about the creation of. I mean, obviously that's just the clickbait aspect. The question is how good are they? How easy is it to do? And do people get it? When you go to the airport right now and you put your license through, it has to be a real ID.
Okay, but so,
The real ID, it's called REAL ID. That's basically it's tracking you by your driver's license. They pop it in, and that they don't even look at your tickets anymore. They just pop your ID in, and they don't look at anything on your phone. The boarding pass is just for the front gate. So when you do that, the question would be, can they make them good enough to fake that? Because the whole point is those are tagged into something.
so the story here is the real story here is not how good AI is at making fake IDs and how easy it is and how cheap it is. It's how facile and brittle our ID system is in the West.
Exactly.
Because so there, anybody who's been on any darknet website in the last 10 years knows that you could there's like one guy who's like the kingpin of fake IDs, still is. He always goes by the ID the username fake ID guy. It's like real original, right? But works as branding, I guess. And
Super salad.
$35 gets you what this company is selling you for 15, and it's just done with Photoshop.
Right.
Now, if you want something that's physical, then you have to pay something. It depends on your jurisdiction. He also does do like the holographic, like inlays and all that stuff. For based on where you are, you can do passports. But the problem with those are they're good enough to. We're
going to put this down as our anti-money laundering segment for today.
Well, I mean, information is good. It's just
Yeah.
I mean, it's dark red team, blue team
for
stuff.
sure.
You missed the best part of me sending you that story, though.
Well, let me finish what I'm saying first, and you can tell me what I missed. But the thing here is that it's none of that matters if it's fake generated. If it's he'll put on that ID whatever you want it to be. If you want it to say McLovin, he'll put McLovin. If you want it to say your actual name, he'll give you your actual name. But it's not going to. If you get pulled over with that ID, you're going to jail because they run it through the computer and it's not a real person. Now, if you want to steal someone's identity, which is an additional $15 on that same darknet website, you can steal someone's identity and then give it to the fake ID guy, and it will come back with a real identity. And now you've got something that will actually pass some security checks and get you through some checkpoints, possibly.
That's a little terrifying.
Yeah, and it's not impossible to do this stuff, but this is what I'm saying. AI does nothing for you.
Right,
and
it's improved Photoshop.
The big headline thing that they were talking about is it allowed somebody to create a fake account on OKX. Anybody that's actually ever used OKX knows that OKX doesn't care if you give them a picture of your dog. They'll open your account. Like it doesn't really freaking matter. Like it's not strong secure. Now, if it got you through Coinbase, that's different because they use Plaid, which is what most banks use for KYC now.
Right.
And part of the Plaid verification is you hold the ID up next to your face and you rotate, and it does like that facial scan thing. This is never going to do that. Now, there might be a time in the future where graphics processors have gotten to the point where you can deep fake, the picture on the ID and in the facial scan, and then we'll have to come up with something. But the point here is that everything is so facile. Everything's been leaked. Like the whole thing that we do with ID verification is just security theater at this point.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if AI's doing it or fake ID guy from the dark web is doing it. It's still cheap and easy.
I guess what this kind of tells me is that ultimately the system is going to have to change, and the only way it's going to change is after these people do these kinds of things in order to shore up those systems. So probably good for the cybersecurity companies overall.
So you guys aren't thinking of the best use case for this.
Please.
Do you know how many men just became 6'1"? Do you know how many women change their hair color and still get to use that picture from 2005?
Yeah.
Because now they get to change it. All of a sudden, you lose 20, 30 pounds. All of a sudden, you don't have to. Like, it's now a social thing. I'm 6'1". It's right here on my driver's license. I've always been a blonde. It's right here on my driver's license. I'm just saying. My middle name has always been Malachi. It's right here on my driver's license.
Yeah.
See, and this is why I like you. You actually come up with the most harmless, fun ways to use shady tactics.
I
This is
swear to
hilarious.
God,
This is great.
my name is Jim Romney. I'm the 7th son. It's right here on my license.
Oh man.
I was watching
Son.
Pitch Perfect the other
You
day.
just have like a Rolodex of IDs.
Are we gonna find that? Are we gonna find that the Russian, the sole surviving heir to the Russian dynasty? What for?
we don't talk about
Anastasia's-
that. That's a different. I got a story from him to steal it from a friend of mine. It's a fantastic one because this is exactly what
Joe
this would be
let
used
the
for.
truth get in the way of a good story.
He started going to this bar, and sometimes he'd be dressed up like he was on Wall Street. On the weekends, he'd be dressed up in like shorts and like t-shirts, something like that. So 2 very different looks. So he always would go in and he'd order the same drink. When he was, he did like a gin and tonic or something or a scotch when he was in a suit, but he'd have beer on the weekends. And so he comes in one day and there's a waitress there and she tries to bring him his regular drink. He goes, "What's that?" He goes, "No, I drink Goldschlager or Bud Light or whatever like that." She goes, "What? No, you get this all the time." He goes, "You're thinking of my brother." He convinced her that he had a twin and then had to keep it up for like 6 months. And he would go into this bar and people would they started getting into it overall. I'm like, that is genius. What a great con that is.
Wow.
For no reason other than just to have a little fun. Just to,
Yeah.
I mean, how great is it? You think how often you change. I mean,
Right.
God, you take your glasses off, people are like, "I don't recognize you."
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
That's good stuff. So there is some positive stuff.
Yeah, we could use technology for
I
good,
bet
not
you
evil.
in San Diego, if someone used a fake ID to convince a girl he was 6'1", they'd prosecute you. Like they prosecuted the guy that would take girls out for dates and then leave and make them
Oh
pay.
yes.
And
You know what?
They
perfect grounds for a divorce. Look, false advertising. This is not what
He
was.
told me he was 6'1".
It's right here in the documentation. This is.
Oh, it could be
this
so
is-
bad too. You
Oh,
guys
yeah.
could change your licenses to 5'11" just to mess with dudes.
Oh yeah. You say you're 6 feet? Come
Dude,
on.
I'm 5'11".
How? What are you?
Isn't that information all self-reported? Can't you just
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
Is
yeah,
it?
yeah,
On your real
yeah,
ID?
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
How much? Yeah, I don't think I've ever given my accurate weight.
Well, it was only last time.
aspirational.
It was when I moved back from New York that I had to actually get a new picture for my
you have to
driver's
take the
license.
test?
I had a driver's license picture since I was like 21 years old. I had grown my hair out and walked in there, and all for good reasons. I ended up going through the line like 3 times in the heat of the summer, and I just brushed out my long curly hair, and it was a fro this big. My eyes were closed. I was smiling, and I was like, "I'm so sorry. I think my eyes were closed." And the lady looked at it, and she goes, "We don't care. You're keeping this picture." And I kept it as long as I possibly could. And then they changed the formats of the licenses, and they made us, change the picture. But for the longest time, I was able to use that long, old picture.
Just remember, if you are going to change your address, to also update the SEC on all your LLCs so that you're not
That's
being
right.
fined.
Beneficial reporting
Ooh,
info.
yes. We'll see. We'll see when that really kicks in, but we'll see. Yeah.
So this comes from the Financial Times this week. Iran did not use crypto to launder its money.
Use Federal Reserve.
It used Federal Reserve regulated. It
Pallets
used
of cash.
Lloyds of London and Santander to
How do they use-
Spanish
that's
bank
the-
and
isn't Santander
British,
it's the bank?
English bank. I
I'm
think,
thinking of
European
the
bank. Yeah.
yeah.
Santander
car
is
loan
Spanish.
people here
Yep.
in Dallas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they
There's
have
another bank.
They have a branch here in.
Oh, it's owned by the same company. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a foreign.
So
company,
they use Santander UK to, I mean, and this is what Alona was from Ukraine Dow always likes. And London is like the money laundering capital of the world. That must be where they get most of their wealth from. But yeah, there's this really, I don't know if you've got the article, Sohail. There's this like really complex.
They followed the money.
Talk about beneficial ownership reporting.
That's probably why they wanted to break that.
Because they're lazy.
about midway
Too
through
lazy
this
to do it
article.
themselves. No.
Yeah, this is where the shell game they played with the money to evade the sanctions in Russia or sanctions in Iran around with the.
Now, you were telling me a fascinating part about this that I wasn't aware of. It was the idea of all the money that's flooded into Iran because Russia has been purchasing weapons from North Korea, ammunition from North Korea and from Iran. So
That's
that
right.
hard currency flooded into those, which then was turned around and used in large extent. Now, that's something that probably didn't pop up in general. But they're basically flush with cash, which is one of the reasons maybe October 7th happened.
Yeah. So this was I mean, this isn't just like, fringe reporting or something deep down. It's just me having heard a bunch of different stories and putting the pieces together.
Right.
So by the way, the chart is about midway through this article, Sohail, if you want to show it on the screen. But what Jim's talking about was, so there's an NPR report and there was like a New York Times report, and I want to say Wall Street Journal, but I may be wrong on that one. But they were talking about how where is Russia getting all of its armaments from, and they have a specific type of artillery weaponry that you can't just get the shells that fit it everywhere, and that's primarily what their military uses. The only place where there was a giant stockpile of that artillery shell was in North Korea, because they've been stocking it up for like the last 50 years. And
It's basically war dogs in real life.
Right. And then from the Iranian side, the only place that was, had sufficiently advanced drone technology that was willing to sell to Russia because of the other sanctions we'd applied against Iran was Iran. And so they've been selling them drones, and North Korea has been selling them shells. And so that's where Iran and both North Korea and Iran, which have been North Korea has been a kind of cybersecurity thorn in America's side for a minute now. They're being much more well funded because of that. They've been engaging in a whole lot of crypto related hacks and ransomware attacks on things because they're much more well funded than they used to be a couple of years ago. And Iran, very notably a funder of Hamas and Hezbollah. And this influx of cash into Iran comes in very suspiciously timed right before October the 7th attack. And it kind of made me feel like, like this, it was kind of like 9/11 was a plan that was in Al-Qaeda's playbook for 10 years before they used it.
Well, yeah, but you have to keep in consideration, like there are, if you look at that diagram right there are three stages of money laundering, and they don't all happen like immediately, right? So like the money is there and ready for use, but it goes through this process. It's placement, layering, and integration. Placement is like, where did they enter the financial system, right? Mm-hmm. And so if you look at that at the top, you see where it came in. Layering is creating complex transactions. Does that look cut and dry to you? No, of course. They're moving that stuff all around, and then they integrate it by then taking that money, taking that now clean money, and giving it back out as if it was like,
I find it
not
fascinating
laundered money.
We call that clean money, if that's not propaganda.
Right? Well, I mean,
we
I
have
think
blood diamonds and we have clean money. Come on, man.
Right.
the thing that's fascinating,
right there in the name.
The thing that's fascinating to me about, again, Bitcoin, right? For example, and we have the best of provenance. You can see exactly where it came from.
Right.
Where it was,
it is trackable. This is what people don't grasp. It is trackable.
So like, it really makes it a lot easier to find this kind of behavior.
This is why this comments
that's
about
why it's also frustrating to me to see that people think that it's the only and the best way to money launder. It's like it's like kind of the worst. It's kind of the worst way to money launder.
And people don't agree. It's not that it's untrackable. It's not that it can be used for crime. That's correct. But the bigger issue is that you can't freeze it and get rid of it the way that you can with anything else. It makes you free to do what you want. It doesn't mean it's not tracked. It doesn't mean it doesn't re-enter the system at different points.
Yep.
The whole point is that you don't get to take my money because you disagree that I eat at Chick-fil-A or that I invaded a country or that I pissed off your prime minister. Like whatever, either very serious or very silly, because we've seen both of those. And that's the problem. It's like we can go, okay, bad people shouldn't have access. But what about Bill? All Bill did was get on TV and embarrass the mayor, and now he doesn't have a bank. That's what Bitcoin does differently, is it stops the abuse of government. That's why it's interesting.
It over and over and over again. There's a whole book written about the whole topic of that, and it was called Cryptonomicon. That was the whole point and goal of the entire book, was that the whole crypt and the cryptocurrency that was created there, that was backed by, in that particular book, bunch of gold from World War II, was specifically for that exact same reason. Yes, are there going to be bad actors that funded in the beginning to try to get it up and running and use it for nefarious purposes? Yes. But as people start to understand the technology, they'll see that like what it's really about is freedom. It's about keeping something like what happened in World War II from ever happening again. No more Holocausts, right? You need to flee, you need to get out, you can get out, you'll have something at the other end.
Right.
We've seen this throughout the history of the world. We saw the
because
Freemasons,
they used to have carry
right?
gold
We
or
had
gold in their teeth or hide stuff.
Or then what happened? Knights Templar, right? You would go to the Knights Templar, they'd give you a writ, you show up over in Jerusalem or some other place, and you give them that writ, and you have the gold again, right? So Amex,
I have
credit
some
cards.
historical advice.
Does anyone know anything about
I have
those
historical
credit cards?
advice
Those
for
zeros
anybody.
and ones that transfer based on a card or, heaven forbid, a watch?
I'll watch. I have some historical advice for people who want to lend money to governments. Read a few history books. Don't lend your money to the government, because if you give too much, then they're like, you know what? I could pay Steve back, or I could just say the Templars are bad people. I mean, that's...
Well,
And
did we
sure, we
haven't-
get Friday the 13th and Jacques de Molay and all that. Good stories, but
haven't we already seen that? Weren't we already talking about who's the largest owner of cryptocurrency or
Yeah.
Bitcoin? Yeah.
Yeah.
the U.S. government.
I think,
US
isn't
government.
that what we were talking about? So shouldn't they be letting us off the hook now and cashing in their zillions of dollars in crypto?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean,
They can do the placement. They can do the integration. They've already got it. They've got it all. Release it back out into the wild.
I mean, this is the whole Chokepoint 2.0 thing we've been talking about for a while. And this is what Elizabeth Warren was trying to do with this exact story, this Lloyds of London thing, right? This is where the actual money laundering was taking place. She was saying it was taking place on crypto. Turns out, it was a lie. Only about $21,000 made it through crypto, and all that got seized at the end point when it was converted into a bank account. Whereas, they were able to launder billions through traditional finance rails because there's a more sophisticated way to obfuscate funds.
All right, so I want to talk about. We got 3 minutes left. I want to talk about what I want to talk
Let's
about.
talk about you want to talk about.
So-
Yes, pharmacy.
Yeah, exactly.
Lawsuits.
So obviously, big news came out this past couple of days. There was a lawsuit filed by an employee of an employer, and that employer is Johnson & Johnson. The employee was a Johnson & Johnson employee that happened to work in benefits. And for various reasons, they sued not just Johnson & Johnson, but individually. And you'll see, if anyone does want a copy of this, I can email you a copy of this this complaint. Again, it alleges that Johnson & Johnson violated their fiduciary duty by not acting in the best interest of the plan. And the reason this is a big deal is because these don't happen often, but the cost of this, the defense of an ERISA lawsuit is going to be substantial one way or the other. So one thing that I think is fascinating, and I have a document that we're working on right now, and I can't wait to get it out sooner than later now. It specifically talks about fiduciary duty on the health insurance side and how I believe it's actually the employee benefit advisors and brokers that are failing in their fiduciary duty, because the PBM on its own, the pharmacy benefit manager on their own, is beholden to their shareholders, and the payer is beholden to the plan. And who's supposed to bridge the gap of the knowledge of the information and who and what should do it is the broker. Now, if you choose a broker that doesn't want to act as a fiduciary, fine. But if no one knew that and everyone assumed that they were acting as a fiduciary, they're the ones, I think, they are the ones that should be held responsible.
So where this gets interesting is that it's primarily about drugs. The cost of drugs hasn't gone up, but the usage is. So we're now at something like $500 billion that we're spending in the U.S. on pharmaceuticals, primarily from utilization, all the drugs that are out there. That's a lot of money. And so in the past, what you've seen is basically you go after deep pockets. So the PBMs have been sued, a few brokers have been sued. It didn't really get anywhere because they don't have fiduciary duty in the sense. And the question became, okay, what is reasonable? That really becomes what is reasonable? If I just put 3 plans in front of you, is that reasonable? Or I have to dig in. These specific ones and the earlier one that was filed against Express Scripts was based on, there was a very expensive drug. I think it was $10,000 a dose. And the question was, the companies were suing the PBM and going, you should have told us about this ahead of time. So is these specialty drugs that are so expensive.
Yeah, because you could have bought it for like $128 or, you know, some number. It's in there. In this complaint, there's just abuse after abuse, and you just see alleged abuse after abuse, but you'll see that you could buy, and this is what Mark Cuban's talking about. I mean, everybody in this industry knows about it. It's that, like, if you have insurance, it's a gamble. You don't know. It's an arbitrage against ignorance, and it's quite simply like, you don't know. And when have you ever gone to the 3 drugstores right across the street from your house and actually shop price? And we know that we're lazy. How do we know we're lazy? Because we know smoking's bad for us, we still do it. We know vaping's bad for us, we still do it. But for those of us who want to be taken care of, right, we just assume that someone's done something in our best interest, and that hasn't been happening, and that's the problem.
And that's where it's going to get fascinating. Now we have the data, we have the claims data. Are companies looking at the actual cost and picking the best options? Are they planning out, or are they just counting on somebody else to do that?
Why would I use my insurance card? And if I present my insurance card, then like it should be a good price. It shouldn't be $10,000. It should be that 128. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. We're going to be talking about this a lot more as time goes on.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, like we'll probably talk about it again on your show this week. What are the, like, give us some homework on this topic. So, like, what can we dig into? Because I want to ask, I want to have some better questions for you to pick out your brain. So, like, is there history on this? Is there?
Yeah, there's an amazing podcast that you can get across platforms called Relentless Health Value with Stacey Richter, and she has so many different articles. There's a great one by Paul Holmes, who's an attorney, an ERISA specialist PBM attorney. AJ Loacano has some great ones. You can listen to the one on Mark Cuban where he talks about what he's doing in the space. So those are really great bits of homework, and just once you fall in, it gets disgusting quick. So, you know, see how that is.
Okay.
Red pill, blue pill. What?
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, the one story we didn't get to today, and it's kind of been going. It's been a slow demolition over at Google for jobs that we were going to talk about today. Like they just killed the product off.
There's a very easy one. Google for Jobs was supposed to be big in talent attraction. Everybody talked about it. It was going to change. Indeed, everything's going to be crazy. They've been doing alpha testing for the years. It's coming. We shut it off, which is what happens with. They should have learned from Google Plus and Google Glass. They just don't launch anything.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot more fodder for discussion here. We maybe come back to this next week or something. Or if you ever start your interview show, it's been great in the pilots that we've shot. I would love to see you go deeper on some of these topics.
You might be the only one.
I don't know. Your clips are pretty popular.
Fun with flags.
So
they like to yell at me. Who's this old guy ranting at a?
I mean, that's
basically most of the comments. This old guy talking about Taylor Swift.
But your interviews are great, and your interviews do well. Even if you're not talking in them, the questions that you ask tend to elicit some good content. So, get down in the comments and make Jim do a show.
Technical difficulty problem today.
So, right.
Good on me.
Yeah. Good job.
That means it was a boring show.
We used up all our controversy quota with yesterday's recording.
Well,
I
if
think.
we talked about Putin and Tuck.
Anyway. Yeah.
Well done.
Good job. Got it in. Thanks for joining us this week. And once again, if you want to start a podcast, you should go to harperbelmont.com. You can learn all about that there. And if you want to learn all about tech, finance, and crypto, finance, tech, and entrepreneurship, then you can come back to this show next week. See you then. You're watching The Merge, business, finance, and tech news and opinion. We keep you up to date so you don't have to go out there searching for what's new. You can hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the TikTok subscribe, the Instagram subscribe. We're going to keep you up to date wherever you are.